I'm not sure if y'all can hear me. Uh, Sorry. I know. Can y'all hear me? Cause this computer has not working properly on my end. Mm, what in the? Y'all can hear me? Nothing's going my way. I had it set up. My just before I went live, the whole computer just completely froze, and I restarted it, and it came back up, and then it was glitching, and I couldn't hear anything, and nothing was playing back for me. So, uh, appreciate you can hear me because the mic went out. I restarted the whole thing, and then I unplugged and replugged the mic. But anyway, this is an old computer. I had a computer before. My son gave me his old computer, which was newer than my old computer. Then I messed that computer up and crashed it because I downloaded the new Age of Empires on there because I thought I played the new Age of Empires over the winter break, over Kwanzaa break. But that computer crashed, and I deleted the game, and it still wouldn't come back up. So then I went and got the computer I had before my son's old computer, which I crashed. And this is what I'm using now, and it's very iffy. I've been writing and lost shit that I'm writing. I've been doing some design work and all kind of shit I do. Is I might keep it, I might not. So it's hard times, you know. Hard times, BroDiallo, but it's all good. I just hope this gets us through. This will be our last BroDiallo show live for the rest of 2022. I was going to go into the Q4 radio studios. Shout out to Q4 radio. But there's a winter storm advisory, and I figured, why risk it? Because it's clear tonight, but y'all know Chicago. So since I've gotten several severe storm warnings in my son's school. And so anyway, it's supposed to get ugly here within a few hours. So I didn't want to be out in this mess anyway. So I decided, let's just go from here. Anyway, I'm very happy to have everyone with me. I'm sorry for any technical difficulties that I had starting a little late, and I apologize for any preceding technical difficulties. I'm just going to try not to touch nothing or breathe too heavy on all these wires and contraptions. And, prayers go up. Pray for me. Prayerfully, we'll get through this. Ancestors or whoever supernatural forces you have that can go beyond the limitations of manly technology, call them and tell them to help BroDiallo out. Anyway, thank you for joining me. Of course, this is BroDiallo, and then we're gonna have Q&A. So I'm just gonna get through. If you saw the previous BroDiallo broadcast on Black Love, Patriarchy, Matriarchy, and Anarchy, I was going to talk about that and move on. But before I get into that, I saw something that disturbed the shit out of me. I actually had just sat down here to start the broadcast, and I saw something that was hella disturbing. So I just want to share this, just because I want to share the pain. I suffer so much. And community, did you know the word community actually translates to mean shared burden? That's what community literally translates. Its meaning and context means a community or people who share burdens, common burdens. So if someone doesn't share the same burdens, they're not really part of your community, which feeds very heavily into what I've been pushing about class consciousness and Black people not holding solidarity with wealthy elite Blacks and Black celebrities, Black minstrels, Black ball chasers that don't demonstrate necessary solidarity and loyalty to the pan global African community. So the burden of this kind of shit, I don't watch the NFL, and I have a limited and reduced amount of respect for black people that do support the NFL, which hurts me because a lot of my unks, a lot of my homies, day ones, love the NFL. And every time there's some game, I got to go online and see my homies, my friends and allies, on here talking about ball chasing. And it's kind of, it's really fucked up because, for the past, really, since the Trump administration, since before then, we've had so many grand insults to the black race. People who disrespect our ancestors, people who disrespect our current status and disrespect our plight, contemporary plight, and people who disrespect even our descendants. And there are other vulnerable and maligned communities within the United States, right? You got immigrant communities, you got the LGBTQ plus community, you have women, white women in particular, and women in general. You have the homeless population, you have religious and ethnic minorities. You have a lot of groups, and since this is a society, a capitalist, white capitalist society, anyone who can be preyed upon and exploited will be preyed upon and exploited. Any vulnerable population will be preyed upon by other populations higher than them in the hierarchy. So you have these instances where other populations are offended. It's either, sometimes it's a legitimate offense, sometimes it's hypersensitivity. But what the black community has been doing for several consecutive public incidents is that an individual who has previously insulted the black community and faced little to no consequences offends another community and faces immediate and sometimes severe consequences, and then the black community points out the disparity, saying, well, when this person rapped about black women being bitches and hoes, when this black person said racially offensive things against our community, when this person mocked an atrocity black people are going through, when this person discriminated or did this thing, little to nothing happened. But when they did a minor offense to this group, everyone's compelled to denounce it. Everyone has to speak up, and I just keep seeing this cycle repeat over and over and over, and it breaks my heart really to see that black people at one time were the group that before you went before a camera, before you got in front of a hot microphone, before you took a position, if you were a black person, and oftentimes if you were a non-black person, you have to watch your mouth because black people would take it to the streets. If it didn't end, it could go as low as disrupting your income, ending your career, or burning down a whole goddamn city. You literally used to be in this country in the 60s called the riot season. Dick Gregory used to talk about this. America used to have what they call riot season. And it generally started in the late spring and ended in the early fall. And that's when black people was like, we're discontent. We're not happy with this situation. So, time to take it to the streets. Or as, who was that guy that said, one time tried to clown, so we have to burn the whole shit down. We had that shit in songs. The roof is on fire. We don't need no water. Let the motherfucker burn. Burn, motherfucker, burn. That was our disposition. What was it called? We've had enough and we're not gonna take it no more. Or as it was called, ya basta, enough. And now, I ask black people who say, well, when he said slavery was a choice, nothing happened. Or when Dave Chappelle's coon ass said that the baby killed a man and had a career, but he offended gay people and lost his career. And then he said that you're better off killing a black man in America than you are offending gay people. And Dave Chappelle would know because Dave Chappelle offends gay people And Dave Chappelle has said a lot of insensitive and disrespectful things about black people and no consequences. So Dave Chappelle is in that same situation. Dave Chappelle didn't need to use DaBaby as that example, because Dave Chappelle said, I've mocked black people, I've mocked slavery, I've mocked the heroes of my people. Dave Chappelle said in an interview sitting across from a white man, I don't want to be Malcolm X and I don't want to be Martin Luther King because they died broke. And I'm not broke, and I don't intend to ever be broke again. So don't put me on their level. I'm higher than me. I don't want to be. Just saying reckless shit. Going on public, going on tour with Joe Rogan, an avowed and public racist. Just search Joe Rogan and the N-word, and there is a compilation of him saying N-word, N-word, N-word. And Dave Chappelle does it. Dave Chappelle playing patty cake, being a PR mascot, trying to help Elon Musk heal his image. At the same time that Tesla Motors and every single company, now including Twitter, that Elon Musk is head of, is under scrutiny for various violations, racist and discriminatory practices towards black people. So he got on the phone and said, hey, Chappelle boy, where you at next? I need to go on stage and do some good PR. And so Dave Chappelle should have said, instead of using DaBaby as an example, because then he offended the gay community, the trans community. And then he goes to name a school after himself, and they say, nah, we don't want our school named after him. He offended. And I asked the black community when they said, well, when they dissed us, nothing happened. But when he dissed them, something happened. I say, what do you want, black people? Do you want other groups, other marginalized groups, to be as tolerant as disrespect as we are? Or do you want them to act on our behalf? Do you want them to be outraged on our behalf? Do you want them, other groups, to sanction others on our behalf? What the fuck are you asking for? Because I'm mad confused. Because I don't fuck with Dave. I keep going on these one-man boycotts. From Nike to the NFL to the NBA to Dave Chappelle to Kanye. I ain't been fucking with Kanye since he put out them goddamn Confederate shirts a decade ago. I stopped fucking with Bill Cosby when the goddamn Cosby Show was still taping episodes. And then I see way down the line, black people catching up. And I'm like, where's your racial esteem? Where's your racial solidarity? Where's your basic personal self-respect? And so I saw this thing just as I was setting up my show. And I saw an article. Something I know nothing about because I don't watch the NFL and I have very little respect for the people, black people. I mean, how the fuck you sit in the NFL? Like, seriously, how can you sit in your house and have the NFL broadcasting into your home? What more? Ask yourself, what could you do? What would have to happen within the NFL sphere? What would it take for you to say, hey, I'm going to, as a person, turn that shit off and stop in any way engaging with or supporting the NFL? What would have to happen? And for many black people, mainly my brothers, the answer is there's nothing. There's nothing they can do to lose my ongoing support of my team. I couldn't fix myself to name a fucking Chicago Bears my team, Kansas City Chiefs my team. It's not my fucking team. People who can't even say my people, who are not comfortable going in public spaces saying my people, my race, my brother, my sister, will say loud and proud my team. You know, one time I was out and about, right? And I had to stop into where was I going? I was somewhere not too far from here. And I was outside of this barbershop. And I saw the big screen TV mounted on the wall. And I saw these two black men in suits and ties speaking passionately and aggressively. I couldn't hear what they were saying because I was outside the window. But they was going at it. And I'm looking at this like NBC or one of the major networks, and I'm like, I see two adult, grown-ass, masculine alpha males going at each other, speaking very aggressively and passionately. And I said, it's got to be a sports show, because there's no other arena in the Western media where a black man can speak with force, passion, aggression, unless it's about sports. You have motherfuckers on there, that's Sam Sharp. You have black men in the media talking about Trayvon Martin, and they have to speak with dignity and keep it calm. Talk about the murder of our people. Talk about famine in Africa. Talk about proxy wars in Africa. Talk about the poverty. Talk about the medical apartheid and medical genocide within our community, and they have to speak calmly and with dignity. But then when you say LeBron or Jordan, let me tell you something, you punk ass motherfuckers, man, that shit bothers me. It hurts me. It hurts me. It breaks my heart. It hurts my heart. Tell me another arena in the media where black men are allowed to articulate pain, passion, ferocity. Tell me another media. Tell me another issue where black men in the prominent spaces are allowed to do that outside of sport. And what's fucked up mostly about that is that's a holdover from slavery. Black men were expected to be as passive and docile as they can be until the master gave them permission to fight or compete on behalf of the plantation, on behalf of the master. That way the black man could be his full-on self, express his talent, express his intellect, demonstrate strategy, demonstrate tactics. Be in stiff, unyielding opposition is in sports. In every other arena, intellect, scholarship, philosophy, art, economics, no other arena could a black man express himself to the fullest throughout slavery and Jim Crow. That's why you look at black history, where the barriers were broken. The first black world heavyweight champ, the first black baseball players. Why were those the first place the color barriers were broken? It wasn't because we were so great. They got us thinking we're naturally gifted in sports. Let me tell you, as Dale Jones said, if you see a brother do a 360 dunk from behind his back without looking, that is a mathematical computation. So if you are good at sports, you're literally good at everything else. We don't excel at sports because we're naturally gifted. We excel at sports because that's where the white man gave us permission to excel. I'm going to say it again. We don't excel at sports because we're naturally gifted in sports. We excel in sports because that's where we got permission to excel. And that's a goddamn shame, and it's unacceptable. Fuck sports, especially pro sports. But let me just go on to this, because I saw this thing. It was apparently the Raiders versus the Patriots, and there was a black man who went to a Patriots game, right? His brother went to a Patriots game, and while he was at the game, there was a white woman relentlessly harassing him and told him not to, that he was in her house and don't be celebrating or cheering on the Patriots in her house. Let me show you this. Look at this. Somebody come look at this. And this sums up the mentality of a black man that's still willing to support the NFL. Oh, it's frozen. Look at it. Keep your arms to your side. It's not playing. Keep your arms to your side, boy. All right, it's fucked up. My computers are fucked up, man. I don't know what to tell you. Homeboy done bought a ticket to be disrespected. He paid for that disrespect. Tell him to come over here. I'll disrespect his ass for free. Let him turn his head away. $2023, y'all. This some Jim Crow shit. This some old we shall overcome. Overcome them with your dignity. Overcome them with your capacity to love. I thought we passed this shit. It's fucked up. You can go look at it yourself. My computer's fucking up. Anyway. Computer's jacking up. I apologize. Let me just close that out. My computer's messing up. See, I closed it and I can still hear it. Okay. And so what's most fucked up about this is not him just taking this abuse. When this video was posted online, several white people offered to take this brother out for a drink. They want to start a GoFundMe. White people are just falling all over themselves to praise and to elevate this Negro, and even prominent, even Patriot football players in the Patriot football franchise is looking for this magical Negro. I mean, Dr. King walked so we could run. Dr. King walked, no, let me say it better. Dr. King took spit in the face so that we could smack the shit out of somebody disrespecting us. It's bad enough we take abuse from white folks with badges. But now, I thought we had at very least passed a level where we could take abuse from white civilians. And the brothers on there had the nerve to have the Haitian flag in his Twitter account. And he's on there, oh, thank you so much. It's my first football game. I love football and the Patriots. First of all, you a sucker for being at a football game. You a sucker for sitting at home watching that shit. You a quadruple super sucker for buying the jersey and going all the way to fucking Oakland to watch them motherfuckers, man. Where is your self-respect? Wasn't y'all threatening, y'all got mad and was threatening the NFL to boycott because of Jerry Jones and Kyrie. And I saw grown-ass black men posting a list of demands for Jerry Jones. Shit is crazy. Anyway, I had no intention to talk about that. I'm a big fan of sports. I play basketball. I like the fighting arts, martial arts. I like kickboxing. For many years, I trained in capoeira. I'm very competitive. I encourage black people to fully engage and participate in sports. And I discourage black people in any way supporting professional sports. If you are so inclined that you just cannot deny, at the very least, don't fucking go to the games. Don't buy the jerseys. Don't buy the endorsed shit. Just watch the shit at home and turn the shit off. And don't turn your kids on to that shit. Make them leave the room. It's like you're watching porn or something. Just watch it in shame and watch it in private. We should treat pro sports like we treat porn. Go to the darkest corner of your basement, lock the door, and then play it on a low volume. You should be ashamed to watch that shit. Okay, what was we talking about? I'm just tired of black people. Even if your community, I mean, let me just move on. We talking about today. I'm carrying on from Monday morning's broadcast, Black Love. I'm gonna run through this, do some Q&A, and then let y'all go. Let's recenter. Let's realign our chakras. Breathe in through the nose, hold it 3 seconds, breathe out through the mouth. One more time, breathe in through the nose, hold it for 3, breathe out through the mouth. Okay, we have realigned, we have recentered, we have balanced the energy. Now we can go on and talk. I know some people are mad at me because I said black love is not revolutionary. And hopefully I'm going to get into that a little later and explain why. Black love is not revolutionary, and it's a good thing. It's a great thing that it's not, and we should not want it to be. Okay, first let's talk about, because we talked about, I mean, please, I'm not even going to refer back to the last show. Just go back and watch the previous Black Love, Patriarchy, Matriarchy, and Anarchy. Now, I talked about matriarchy, I talked about patriarchy, and now I'm going to talk about anarchy in Black intimate relationships, because I believe that Black intimate relationships should not be patriarchal, or matriarchal. I take the position that Black relationships, interpersonal, intimate relationships, and Black organizations, the Black community, should be anarchical. And I know that's a dirty word, but here's the thing. Dr. Bobby Rice said, when all white folks are against you, you know you're doing something right. So if everywhere you look, the word anarchy is a bad word, oh, this is anarchy, and whenever they want to call something bad, they call it anarchy. Whenever they want to say it's dysfunctional, it's disorganized, they say it's anarchy. You got to know, it's got to be something good to that word. What does anarchy mean? We know the suffix means rulership or ruler. So the prefix a or an means without. So anarchy literally means no ruler. Monarchy means a sole, one ruler. Democracy or demos means the people. So that means the people rule. Demos. Oligarchy means small number of rulers. See, theocracy means religious rule. So anarchy means there is no established set ruler as a person. No person rules. And it's even better than democracy. You know why? Why anarchy is even better than democracy as a goal to be obtained? Because democracy means winner take all, means majority rule, right? A lynch mob is democratic. You got 100 crackers say, let's lynch them, and 10 blacks say, let's not lynch them. Democracy prevails. So democracy is inherently unjust. It's what even the enslaving pedophile monster, genocidal monsters that white people call their founding fathers, they even talked about what they call the tyranny of the majority. They talked about the tyranny of the majority, meaning if you have, they called them, political parties were called factions. If you get a faction that's large enough, they can use their democratic rights to deny other people their rights. And so democracy does not necessarily guarantee freedom for all or even full participation of all, but anarchy does. So we'll get into that. But before we get into that, I want to talk about this myth of the decline of the Black family. And in order to understand something can decline, it has to be up. And so the problem with the decline of the Black family is because this is a big part of patriarchy. A lot of brothers, because me bringing up this topic kind of dealt with me talking to some patriarchal brothers, Black men who are advocating patriarchy, who thinks that the problem in the Black community is that the Black man is not at home. And if you could just get brothers and insert them into these single mother households, they have a lot of misconceptions. Because most of the brothers that advocate for patriarchy or condemn matriarchy and want to return to traditional families, they haven't looked beyond the surface. They are mimicking white folks. There's this mythology that in the 50s, white people have the mythology that in the 50s, that the family was stable, the family was strong, and progress was a result. The stability of society of the 1950s was a byproduct of family values, right? And then you had this racist piece of shit named Daniel Patrick Moynihan, who was a social scientist, who went and looked at the Black family and was like, the Black family is suffering, and the Black family is dysfunctional. The Black family is in poverty. The Black family is losing ground on educational, economic, social means. And he concluded that the problem with the Black community, a white man, is that the Black community is a matrilineal and matriarchal structure. And the matrilineal matriarchal structure was a byproduct of our values. So the problem with the Black community and the Black race were our values. We did not have the appropriate value systems within our individuals and within our larger communities. We did not embrace and thus pass on the appropriate values to our offspring. So of course, that means if we're impoverished, if we're living in rat-infested slums, if our children are malnourished, if our children are being cut down by the police, if our adult men are addicted to heroin, if we have all these problems, it's our value systems. We failed to just say no to the bad things. Our pants, as Bill Cosby says, our pants sag. We use broken English, and that is our problem. And so how do you help a people who have broken values? You model and encourage good values. And so that's what's been going on. And at the same time, this whole thing, Black people have warped value systems, which is why we suffer. There was a new concept in public policy called benign neglect. So just in the Reagan era, you had racial upheaval dating back to 1919 up to 1960s. You had ongoing racial conflicts and upheavals and disruptions, right? Race riots, protests, and upheavals. So basically, after the Civil Rights Amendment, the various Civil Rights Act and concessions that the government made, they said they're going to enter into a period called benign neglect. Benign neglect meant basically America would go colorblind. Post-racial America, or the rhetoric and the policies of post-racialism, did not start with Obama. They started in the late Carter, early Reagan era. Really go back to Nixon, but let's simplify it for ourselves so we can get through this. And so in this era of benign neglect, we're just going to let this race thing simmer. Now, Black people can vote, Black people can integrate, and they can go to school, and there's some set-asides, there's some affirmative actions. We're done talking about race. Let's fight the communists. We're going to focus on communism. We're going to start to spread capitalism. At this era is when they started telling commoners to get into the stock market. Greed is good, that Jordan Gecko aesthetic, Wall Street, corporatism, the white macho man. This is the era of Dirty Harry and Death Wish. So it was some major changes. But what benign neglect was, remember I told you, when white people lose a war, they start focusing on winning the peace. I don't know why this camera is jumping periodically. It's weird, but if it's okay with y'all, it's okay with me. But I'm seeing whoop, whoop, whoop. So that benign neglect was not a benign neglect. That was the covering. That was the smoke screen. And a lot of Black people started saying it. Oprah Winfrey back in the 80s said the only color that matters is green. You know, a lot of prominent Negroes were saying the only color that matters is green. And Oprah Winfrey's like, look how far I've come. Racism's over. And they say Black people using racism as an excuse. Bill Cosby and Oprah Winfrey are icons of that era. Black people making excuses, Black people wanting handouts, when it's our values, these single mothers, these wayward fathers, right? And so at that time, it was a conservative takeover. And so up front, they were like, hey, we're done fighting Black people. Here your vote. Here are your set-asides. Here's your affirmative actions. Here's some tokens. Go do y'all. In the background, they were building and advancing and reinforcing the infrastructure of mass incarceration, the CIA, FBI, crack cocaine, redistribution, the post-Cold War era. They were focusing on both winning and neo-colonialism and neoliberalism. So they were basically saying, listen, it's time for us to blow up the New Deal. So they weren't just working on subverting Black people's civil rights. That was just one part of what a much larger scheme that eventually became known as the Project for a New American Century. And so if you look at George Bush, Bill Clinton, and Ronald Reagan, you'll see that they used a lot of these same individuals keep popping up. And the same funders, the same strategists. Henry Kissinger, who's Obama's political mentor? So I can't remember his name. I was about to say, I should have said it when it came up. Zbigniew Brzezinski, Council on Foreign Relations, all these crackers, Bolton, Cold Warriors. They knew long before the Soviet Union the Soviet Union collapsed, 92, 93. But the U.S. intelligence agencies and Pentagon knew that the Soviet Union was hollowed out and collapsing. At the same time, they were telling U.S. citizens that there's a communist takeover, and they put out that movie Red Dawn, and they're like, any day now there will be a communist strike, a nuclear strike. The Cubans are going to invade, the North Koreans are going to invade, the Russians are going to invade, and they had black people thinking, oh, any day now. At the same time, they were telling us, and remember, they had this thing called the missile gap. So they said the Russians have this huge, monstrous arsenal of nuclear weapons, and there's a missile gap, which is allowed to blow up the Pentagon. The reason they blew up the Pentagon is to destroy the New Deal. But a lot of this, see, black people, we like to think, oh, white folks do stuff just because they hate us. White people got plans, plots, and schemes. There's a song by Souls of Mischief. Look that song up, called Secret Service. They got plans, plots, and schemes like a dope fiend trying to get that ice cream soda. But nigga, hold up. Things is not as they seem. You get washed even if you way too clean. You know. So, and we think that they're using reptiles and rituals and all that, and adrenochrome. And all these motherfuckers talking about the deep state secret society. They don't pay attention to, they published articles in journals about what they do. But anyway, let me not get too convoluted in this. But basically, the government, the elites and the government knew that the Soviet Union was due to collapse. And they were constructing the post-Soviet world. And the post-Soviet world meant a world completely dominated by capitalism and white hegemony. And they said, once we become the sole superpower, we will create a structure where no other rival power can ever rise again. And that was the project for a new American century. So they had to subdue internal and external threats. So the internal threats were black people as a whole and the white left. So they had to break down the white left and corrupt and destroy the white left, and they had to destroy black militancy. And what they didn't destroy, they corrupted. So now we don't even know what militancy is. That's why the Democratic Party, if anybody ever talk about how crazy the Republicans is, but the Republicans are crazy because the Democrats stole their platform. And I went over this before, but it's all connected, and I'm saying all this to say the destruction of the black family and the black family ain't got shit to do with our morals being worse than our grandparents, our values being weaker than our grandparents, or we don't love each other. This shit ain't love. The family is a political, social, economic institution. They love to say the family is the foundation of the nation. It's good rhetoric. It sounds cool. You and your woman, y'all kicking it and you trying to say some slick shit to kind of move things along. Like, baby, yeah, family, the foundation of the nation. And the sister like, woo, this is a positive brother. Go ahead, use that rhetoric. But reality is, the family is a product of the nation. The family is a product and a tool of the nation. It's a political institution. And that's why you have, since the beginning, the elites know that shit. That's why the elites back then and now, they have arranged marriage. They know this shit ain't got nothing to do with love. Talk about family. The very people, the very elites who tell us about the family values, who model family values, the very hashtag goals people, what the fuck do they do? What do their families look like? What do elite families look like? They don't raise their fucking kids. They have nannies and boarding schools. The wife doesn't cook the fucking food. What's that? Steph Curry's wife, when she was trying to play that fake ass role of happy homemaker. They got personal cooks, personal chefs, a whole staff. And now y'all letting Michelle Obama go and talk about motherly wisdom. I just see y'all sharing this thing where Michelle Obama was talking about she was mad at Barack because he was traveling the world while she was at home tending to the daughters. She's a goddamn liar. The White House has a $700 million budget. Y'all saw the butler. I never saw the butler. But y'all saw the butler. Michelle was on some old ring a bell. Bring me my daughter. Bring me my oldest daughter. Bring me my youngest daughter. I wish for interaction. And they'd bring one of them girls up. One of them gangly girls up. And she'd like, oh, you're progressing well, my dear. How's school? How are things? Okay. And then she'd ring the bell again and a servant will come take her daughter away. And Michelle got y'all thinking, y'all listening to mothering advice. Michelle got the goddamn nerve. We love our sons and raise our daughters. And then y'all dummies run around. Yeah, Michelle talking. Michelle now wants to be a mothering guru. She want to be a down-home sister. When she was massaging Obama's shoulders while he was writing edicts to drone bomb the African continent. And y'all want to act like these people we should listen to anything about. Weirdos. Anyway, where was I? The black family was said to be dysfunctional due to values, right? And all of the research, all of the economic, political science, sociology, psychological found that the quote-unquote destruction of the black family had nothing to do with the change in black values. And they also found out doing very in-depth surveys that black quote-unquote values towards marriage, towards child rearing, towards fathers being emotionally available and or desiring to have connection with their children, black people often outpaced the good white folks. And they asked, well, the black family is quote-unquote in decline, and they found that, we had more of the high rates of marriage in the 60s, and we have very low rates of marriage. We had low rates of divorce, and we got high rates of divorce now. And they found out that all of these disruptions track with policy and resources. Were there policies in place to support the family, housing, education, and income? What did white families go look at it? Go look at the history of white people and white family values. The white nuclear family. They found that white families are so strong because of access to resources, income, education, social mobility, loans, grants, the whole white infrastructure, the suburbs, the highways, the industries, every single major industry that employs white men is subsidized by the government. There is no such thing as private enterprise in America. Go find me a multinational major corporation that is not on the government dole. Point out and name, from Amazon to Tesla to Boeing to Walmart, point to a white multinational corporation that does not exist with the inputs and support of the federal government and the military. Even Walmart, that's selling reduced. Walmart is able to be a dominant retailer because they can charge very little for their goods. Why are they able to charge very little for their goods? Because their goods are made overseas in sweatshop conditions. And what is keeping those people in the sweatshops for making products for the American market at starvation wages in Bangladesh, in Indonesia, in Haiti, in China. It's U.S. imperialism. It's U.S. imperialism. So every single major company is subsidized. And then you have some of these small business white men. Well, my dad doesn't own a multinational corporation. We have a family-owned business. Who you working for? Who is contracting with your family-owned business? Because if your dad had a cement company and he was a subcontractor of a subcontractor laying down, he's still on the government teeth. Oh, my dad, he owned his own truck. And what the fuck is he driving in that truck? Walmart? Microchips? For Boeing? This whole economy is a welfare economy. They just don't call it welfare when it's white people. And the day the government, because the government has been what they call austerity. Austerity is when white people get cut off welfare. When they cut black people off welfare, they call it bootstrap, and they got all these, oh yeah, these things where they try to shame us. When Bill Clinton cut black people off welfare, he called it economic responsibility. But when white people get cut off welfare, it's called austerity. And so when they implement austerity, what happens in the white community? Single parent homes, drug addiction, petty and major crimes, incarceration rate, and a drop in life expectancy. There is a brother I know personally. I consider him my mentor, but he probably would say he's not my mentor because he don't agree with anything I say by and large. But this is a professor, PhD in economics by the name of Dr. Linwood Tahi. And even though we don't agree on things like religion, we didn't agree on Obama. We would stay up and debate till 4 a.m. when Obama was running for president. But Dr. Linwood Tahi, he has a show on Black Power Media. You can reach out to him for his research, but don't tell him I sent you because then he might hang up on you. But Dr. Linwood Tahi, one of just a handful of black economists in the entire country, did some in-depth research. And he came out on the other side stating correctly that it's materialist. I don't know if he's a Marxist, but he said when the money's right, and then he's got black men who's like, well, if a black father's in the home, that means no incarceration and all this other good shit. Causation, correlation. But basically he concluded that when white folks' money get funny, they start acting just like colored folk. Go figure. How do we know? Go look at the Great Depression. Everybody says the Jews stick together. If you read books like All Quiet on the Western Front, if you go back and look at any history of the ghettos, that's where the word ghetto, of the ghettos, when Jewish people were deprived of access to resources, when they had their land snatched away, the United States in post-slavery, they talk about reparations for slavery. I hate to tell y'all this, but the atrocities and the theft of black wealth since slavery matches, and depending on how you calculate, even maybe surpass the reparations for slavery. They stole over $1 trillion worth of work, during the Great Migration. I hate that word, the Great Migration. My wife's family ended up here in Chicago from Mississippi from the Great Migration, as if black people were down there tilling soil and singing songs and just like, let's head up north where it's cold. Let's head up north, and I'm sick of getting my head busted by rednecks of the South. Let me go get my head busted by Irish and Italian and Polish and Ukrainian immigrants. Just want a new form of head busting. Instead of hanging from a tree, I think I want to hang from a light pole. So I'll leave rural America in the South, where they hanging me from trees, and I'm gonna come to the north and get hung from light post. Instead of a dirt back road, they'll find my body on the side of the highway. Progress. They stole our land. There were riots where white folks went into the public records office and set black land deeds on fire, black mortgages on fire. They would go to livestock buyers, people who buy crops and livestock, people who sell seeds, people who sell farm equipment and tools to repair farm equipment, and said, don't sell no livestock, don't sell no seed, don't sell no fertilizer, don't sell nothing to black farmers. Or you can join it. You can burn and swing in the tree right next to the black farmer. We were driven out of the South through violence, and they took over $1 trillion worth of wealth in us long after slavery. And now here we are telling our kids it was a migration instead of a forced expulsion, instead of ethnic cleansing. What the fuck, man? Why do we always use this flowered language? Oh, it's privilege. Oh, it's supremacy. Oh, it's a microaggression. We can't even, micro? That's something you can't see. Migration? Use the real fucking language. When we fuck up, when we do something wrong in this system, they call us dogs, animals, beasts, thugs, criminals. But when they do their shit, we gotta soften it. Don't want to make them madder. They're gonna lynch you harder. They're gonna rob you more. They're gonna take you from zero to negative what? So anyway, the black family, the values argument that a lot of black, so-called conscious black people, Umar Pan-African, and he's making the values argument. Your values are irrelevant. I hate to say it. How do I know values are irrelevant? Trump. He's married 3 times. You know, Bill Gates. Y'all looking at these elite white people and all their fuckery. The kind of fuckery we can't even imagine. Private yacht fuckery. Charter jet fuckery. And we still think, oh, values is what got them there? Yeah, some values. Parasitic values. So basically, the black family was destroyed. From a white perspective, the black family was destroyed because of social and economic barriers. Moynihan was wrong. All these values people were wrong. When black people are surveyed, black people, you're not a special black person. Because I literally see black people. I literally see black people out here thinking they're the only good black person. Yeah, these black people don't do black people this. You think you're the only black person that wants unity? The only positive black? Most black people feel the same way about family. When you go find me the black man and a black woman that ain't pro-family, I can't find all these good black men that just can't seem to find the good black women. All these good black women that just can't seem to find a halfway decent black man. Now, one thing they did say, that the social barriers were drugs, incarceration, and then felony conviction, unable to secure housing, and the economic barriers are tied. Basically, regressive, racist, targeted policies and economic warfare and exploitation is why the family broke down. It had nothing to do with my great-grandfather valued family and I don't. It's got nothing to do with that shit. Statistically, if we look at it, if my great-grandfather, who was a strong family man, was born today, and my no good cousin that got all these baby mamas was born in the 1930s, so they were locking black men up, the high incarceration rate, but black women at a higher rate than white women said that they felt that family was very important to their goals, and wanted a good husband or partner. White women, 2/3 of black women said it's very important. Where only 30% of white women said that was important. 55% of black women said it was very important for a husband or partner to be well educated, compared to only 28% of white women. Half of black women said that financial stability should be an important precondition for marriage, but only a quarter of white women felt that way. Every single step of the way. I talk about these black women, single family household. When black women are surveyed, it's found that their values are stronger. Ain't no different than their grandmothers. Now, I'm gonna tell you what happened to black women. And they say, you want to boost black marriage? Give black people the same shit you gave white folks to boost and stabilize white families. Basically. Now, that's their thing. They're saying the reason why the black family is because the government, and in conjunction with multinational corporations, and with the full compliance of the white citizens and the compliance of black elites, targeted to disrupt the black family in order to prevent any further disruption of the larger white hegemony and capitalist agenda for the globe. They saw us as a threat. The US government said, if it wasn't for these Negroes in the street, Vietnam wouldn't have played out the way it did. And black people were radicalizing white people. When you had the Panthers, you look at the SDS, Student for Democratic Society, you look at the Weather Underground. Black people were radicalizing the entire world. You had Black Panther parties on the African continent, and the African decolonization movement had a symbiosis with the Black Power struggle in the United States and the Civil Rights struggle in the United States. The non-alignment movement and the liberation theology in Latin America was symbiosis. The Caribbean Federation and the rise of socialism and anti-colonialism, all this shit was flowing together. So we're going to put drugs, we're going to put them in prison cells, we're going to disincentivize, we're going to destabilize the community and target the community. And punk-ass black men want to say the problem is black women don't submit. The problem is these black women are slutty. I literally saw some brother post online of some black woman wearing a Victorian corset, dressed up, covered up like this, and he had a black woman. And then he had a picture of this black woman, this poor black woman from the 1920s, wearing like a European Victorian dress. And then he had a picture of sisters, in thongs, sticking their butt out. And he was like, sisters this, sisters now. So I, of course, went back. That was the era of the flapper. That's back when reefers was legal. You ever heard of the Roaring 20s? Motherfuckers was wild. BD was running rampant. Shit was wild. So I just go and get a bunch of historical stock photos of women from the 20s, black and white, grainy photos of women busting it open. And I went and got modern photos of dignified ladies in the 20s, the 2020s. Like, dude, stop. We always had this reality. We always had this reality. And my grandma was a virginal saint. She had 12 kids. But I digress. So, anyway, now, here's my issue. That's white folks. White folks, and they basically say equality, integration, policy, reparations. But here's the thing about the black family. First of all, African people, we need to define black family for ourselves and stop looking at the black family as a mimic or a black version of white families. I don't know what the fuck. I mean, these black Leave It to Beaver motherfuckers are weird. Y'all weird. Black families have to be, well, let me say it like this. If you have to use one word to describe black families or to describe any people under oppression, there's one word that's going to determine whether or not you can endure and survive or whether or not you will be obliterated. And Integration is obliteration. Equality with your oppressor is erasure, is adaptability. The thing that made the black family, allowed the black family to endure slavery, the thing that allowed the black chattel slavery, Jim Crow, benign neglect, the thing that allowed us to endure was our adaptability. And what is adaptability? That if there is a deficit, if there's something missing, we're able to construct based on what we have, construct a patch, a fix, a replacement based on what we have. We never defined our family based on what our oppressors could deny us, because that literally surrenders ourselves. So if we define our family based on something that white people can deny us, then they have control. So if we say our family is about money, white people, as Scheherazade Ali said, the white man is the god of jobs. And I know it's bad, I'm quoting, but when you write, you write. The white man is the god of jobs. He giveth and he taketh away. So if we're defining our worth based on employment and income, I'm a man because I got a job, that leaves us, that allows them to turn us on and turn us off. That allows him to literally say, well, this sector of the country will have black stability. This sector of the country will have black dysfunction. Oh, we want to change the political landscape here, so we're going to stabilize these. That literally allows them to be puppet masters. Jobs, income, marriage. So, the way we were able to survive, say, well, a white man at any moment, from slavery, he could sell the man off. He could sell the mother off. He could sell the child off. Under our current situation, because Dr. Bobby Rice said, you define slavery. Slavery is the state in which all of the institutions and resources necessary for your survival are in the control of another people. So we're still enslaved, right? But the problem is we have all the problems that stem from slavery, but we have none of the adaptations because we think we're free. We think we can do this ourselves. Me and my woman against the world, my family, my house, I take care of me and mine. If you were on a plantation saying I take care of me and mine, they'd be like, who are you and what is yours, dummy? It's us. We and our, not me and mine. We let that me and mine go because we thought all of a sudden white man said you got a vote, you got a tuition voucher, and you got a good job. So you don't need all that shit that got you through slavery, all that shit that got you through Jim Crow, that African adaptability. Now you're integrated. Now you can be just like white folks. Now the black man could be the head of the household, and the black woman can wear dainty little aprons and curl her hair up like June Cleaver and, make a happy house and put pies on the doorstep when they were still fucking lynching us and still doing all the same shit. So, what is adaptability? I said back during slavery, father could be sold off, the mother could be sold off, the children could be sold off. So African people said, if this happens, we come together. We collapse on each other, right? So now, father can be incarcerated, the mother can be drug addicted and are incarcerated, the children can be put into family services. Babies was passed north and south. My wife's family is a really good example. You look in a black household, it could be a cousin from Mississippi, it could be an uncle, it could be a mother and a daughter. Those households were multi-generational. And back then, folks used to build additions onto houses. And so they knew if a child came into your house, you took responsibility for that child. And yes, Lord knows, you can talk all the mess, how they mama ain't got it, how they daddy ain't nothing. Yeah, you talk your mess. My grandmother adopted me and my siblings. And every now and then she go on a tirade, your mother, or your father. My father was a Muslim and she would always mock Islam and talk about him like a dog. But she filled that void. And now we got people literally, you got people literally that are members of wealthy families. Like Clarence Thomas is a Supreme Court justice, and his sister was living in abject poverty. Serena Williams got siblings living, one of Serena Williams' sisters got shot down in the streets of Compton, living in poverty. Beyonce got a younger sibling she has nothing to do with, she has no connection to. Now, back in the day, the community did not abide that. You were only doing as good as the worst member of your family. People used to talk like that. Oh, the Jeffersons, oh, the Williamsons, oh, the Smiths, them peoples. All you were was your people, and your peoples was you. And if you didn't find some type of way to allow your peoples to be integrated into your progress was not respected. It was because it was an adaptability. And every black person knew in such a vicious racist system, you could be up one day and down the next. So when you up, you better bring as many people with you. So when you go down, you got people that's there to catch you. It was that value system that allowed us to endure conditions that drove the rest of us, many other groups, many other populations to extinction. It was those adaptabilities, and there's so much details I can go into, but time is not on my side. But the way we conceptualize what family was, if we had the wisdom of our ancestors, we'd never say the black family was destroyed because we don't have a bunch of marriage license and a bunch of nuclear family households. We would say the black family is destroyed because we don't coordinate. We don't cooperate. We don't pool our resources and share with other members of our family because we don't have the African family structure where every adult is an aunt. If you're not a father, if you're not a mother, if you're not biological, every black child is your niece or nephew. Every black child you can reach out and touch in your surrounding areas. We ain't got the goddamn old lady on the porch anymore. We ain't got the old lady on the porch. We ain't got the old lady peeking out the curtain anymore. And the very people that are condemning us for destruction of the black families are the same people that be like, don't talk to my child. Don't you say nothing to my child. Me and mine. That's why we're fucked up. That's why even when we get money, even when we got money, we're still fucked up. It ain't because our values have changed in terms of valuing family. Our values have changed in terms of our African consciousness, what I call instinctive African. We had a lot of African instinct. Multi-family, multi-generational families, extended families, shared burden. Community means shared burden. If you are living in your home, and I don't care if you got a million other people living around you, if you're just focused on yours and you don't have any way to connect to those around you, you don't have a community. It's like Pastanou said, neighborhoods are now hoods because nobody's neighbors, just animals surviving with that animal behavior. And I don't care if it's the projects or some affluent gated community like T.I. lives in. Remember that video of T.I. standing out the gates of his own gated community and they wouldn't let him in his own community? They hired a new security guard and they didn't say, hey, these are the sanctioned Negroes. He didn't get his sanctioned Negro list, so he locked T.I. out of his own goddamn house. Without this African consciousness, you could be in a gated community and be as fucked up and have your kids as fucked up and backwards, T.I., as you did if you raised them in the projects. Master P? So, if we want to reassert the African family, first of all, we have to acknowledge what we have. We want to save the black family. We have to first acknowledge that the black family is not gone. We have to reorient the black family. We have to reorient the definition of what family is, and we have to reestablish the purpose of the family. The purpose of the family is to cultivate revolutionaries. Other than that, it's no point to the family. But that's a little too far to go. Just know that everything is there. If you're one of these black family fetishes, just know these single mothers, they ready to work with you. Their values ain't no different than their grandmothers. It's just the environment. We got the wrong adaptations. I just want to say one more thing about the black family, and then I'm going to explain to you why black love isn't revolutionary. Dr. Kwame Ture stated that humans go on have a natural evolutionary proclivity to greater levels of complexity. I have to say that again because it is established. There is no person, whether it is a biologist, a geneticist, a sociologist, a political scientist, a physician, psychologist, engineer, all professions demonstrate that human beings, we are evolved primates. And what has been consistent throughout our historical record is that we have a natural evolutionary proclivity to move towards greater levels of complexity. What does that mean? That means human language started off extremely simple. Some grunts, some whistles, some clicks. And the more humans talked, the more complex language. And Lord, I owe my children an apology. If one of my sons has moved out, and if my other son moved out and never spoke to me again, I wouldn't blame him. What did I do wrong? What did I do to violate my sons? I married an English teacher. I swear for God, my sons found no peace. My sons would be in their room with the headphones on playing Xbox. And if they use the wrong verb tense, if they use incorrect conjugation, they be in there playing the game. Their mother would kick in the door. Bam! And correct. Every day, not a day of their lives went by. They couldn't even drop G's. Mom, I'm going out. You are going out. It's terrible. I mean, and they just caught no peace. She just wouldn't leave them alone. I guess somebody had, because I wasn't one of them sports dads. So somebody had to hound those boys. So, so I'm sorry for that. I didn't know it would be that bad. She was just a high school teacher when I met her. I didn't know she'd go on and get a PhD and just keep going. But anyway, the English language is so complex. And you don't know how many fights we've had over the goddamn terms. My wife and I, we had a big fight. What was that over? Some terminology. And we pulling out books off the shelves and running to our phones, Googling and shit. I can't remember. I still think I was right. What were we fighting? But anyway, complexity. The language is hella complex. What was it? I don't know. I just can't remember. Anyway, language becomes more complex. Agriculture. We would hunt and gather. Now we got satellite tracking for soil, and we got microscopes to test, the fauna, biodiversity, microbiodiversity of the soil. Greater complexity. If you look at primitive agriculture, if you look at our living structure, from thatch huts to skyscrapers, it's a natural evolution. And every culture progresses along that path naturally. But he said some cultures, he called it a natural evolution to greater levels of complexity. When he said the family, he said when humans would live in small family groups. A breeding pair, a female and a breeding male, their offspring, and other supporting non-breeding pairs. Primitive humans, right? As humans became more complex, we had more complex family structures. As life expectancy expanded for humans, grandparents and even great grandparents, and so they were able to divide the labor. One hunts, one cultivates the soil, and these groups, this one group, the older men watch the perimeter, the older women tend to the children until the mothers come home to breastfeed. It's more complexity. And then you go on from the family to the tribe, to the nation, or to the city-state, to the nation, or country, to continental unity. He said, this is the natural progression. From being selfish little hoarders to having communal, socialistic sharing. But he said, when Europeans came and disrupted that natural human evolution, and what that natural human evolution did to move towards greater complexity is they siphoned. They didn't just take resources from the people they exploited. They didn't just take physical slaves and take mineral wealth. They took that natural evolutionary momentum and used it to not just advance themselves, but because their shit was so warped. Yes, Western culture is warped. Western culture shouldn't exist, really. It's the most artificial thing. It's not a natural culture. The white man is an artificial construct, but I can't get into that. I want to stay on. But anyway, long story short, Dr. Kwame Ture said, let me stop calling him a doctor. That's just my person. I call him that at home. But he said, when your natural evolutionary progression is disrupted, you no longer have the luxury of evolution. You have to engage in revolution. He said, because the Africans' natural evolution towards greater levels of complexity was disrupted, we now have to go through a revolutionary transformation instead of an evolutionary transformation. Evolution is natural. Revolution is deliberate. It is constructed, it is conceived, it is conspired, it is carried out. And this is why Black love is not revolutionary. Just like Black business is not revolutionary. Black people owning banks, Black people owning property, these Black people now down south setting up Black Wall Streets. That's not revolution. Black people reparations is not revolutionary. I'll tell you why. When Europeans came to the African continent, Black people were richer than white people who invaded us. We had more material wealth than the people who colonized and enslaved us. So if money and banks and commerce and markets were liberating, we would have never been enslaved. Same thing, we loved each other. We loved our Black skin, our Nubian, our Black features. We loved each other. We had Black love when we got it colonized. If Black love was such a revolutionary force, we couldn't have been colonized and enslaved. Let me tell you something about Black love. Revolution is not a natural process. It's not evolutionary. It compensates for the loss or the disruption of your evolution. So the worst thing that could happen to us is that Black love becomes revolution. Because what is revolution? It is a violent process. Revolution is a conspiracy. As Malcolm X said, revolution is bloody. You don't want your love. Black love is not a conspiracy. Black love is not bloody. So I don't think, and people say, someone even said in the comments just now, when you taught to hate yourself, loving yourself is revolutionary. It's not. It's a compensation. If somebody cuts me and I stitch up that wound, You could say it's healing, but it's not revolution. And if somebody cuts me and I cut the motherfuckers back, therein lies your revolution. You know what I'm saying? So getting back to normal is not revolution. It's valuable. I value Black love. I appreciate Black love. I give Black love. I receive Black love. I'm in Black love. I'm not diminishing Black love. I'm trying to fight the distortion and corruption of Black love because I love me some Black love so much. I don't want it to be distorted. Black love is natural. Black love should be easy. Black love should flow effortlessly. Black love should be omnipresent. Black love should exist regardless of any other circumstances. Rich or poor, up or down, free or in shackles. Black love should exist. It should be ubiquitous, omnipresent. That's not what revolution is. If you say Black love is revolutionary, some people suggest that, oh, Black people, somebody said you can't love while cutting. Did I say that? I guess this is going to take some work to get through. Black love is a natural thing. Black love is the foundation. Black love is like air. Is breathing revolutionary? You know, when a mother takes a child and suckles a child at her breast, again, we need to understand that revolution is a conspiracy to subvert the systems and institutions of capitalism and white hegemony. Revolution is painful. It's hard. It's not a natural thing, especially for Black people. Who the fuck wants to be fighting and conspiring and risk everything that revolution is? And I advocate for revolution, but it's not love. In fact, everything love is, revolution shouldn't be, and everything revolution is, love got no business being. That should be the easiest thing. While you out there fighting and struggling, you be like, well, goddamn, this shit is hard. It's painful. It's relentless. But at least love, I can just fall back. That's something that just comes effortlessly and easily. I don't have to fight for it. I don't have to kill for it. I don't have to die for it. Things you can value. Talking about you can't cut and you can value. You can be a healer as well as a killer, a warrior, a fighter. I think that's the thing. You can go into the streets and fight like a bloodthirsty madman. But when you go home, you should be able to like, hey, now I'm in a safe, nurturing space. So no, Black love is necessary, but it should not be revolutionary. That doesn't mean we have to abandon revolutionary. Black love and revolution can coexist. In fact, Black love can inspire revolution. Black love can sustain you in revolution. In revolution. But what the fuck you think? We love each other. I love my Black person. Yeah, it can motivate you to revolution, but it can motivate people to submission. Black love can do a lot of things. And I don't think we really appreciate that. There are a lot of Black people who refuse to fight out of love. And there's Black people who are going to fight to the end out of love. So we can make love revolutionary and have what some call revolutionary love, but Black love unto itself is not revolutionary. Don't go thinking you find a Black partner, a Black spouse, and love that Black spouse with all your heart, that it's going to cause any less pollution to be in the waterways, that it's going to block any bullets, that it's going to stop the ongoing onslaught of neo-colonialism. Oh, don't shoot that black guy. He's in love. Don't incarcerate that black community. Don't dump drugs in that black community. They're in love. And what you find a lot of times, that as we start to show love to each other, oppression intensifies. And we can't rest on love. Oh, the enemy's at the gate. Don't worry, we love each other. So I'm not saying in any way diminishing black love. And we don't have to distort what love is and what love does for us. You know the difference between a scalpel and a sword? Both are very necessary. Both require skills. But the skills required for a scalpel are different than the skills required for for a sword. And they're both valuable. And if you can have an overabundance of one and a lack of the other, you're fucked. You can have the best healers in the world, but if you have no defense mechanism, you're fucked. You can have the greatest warriors in the world, but if you have no mechanism to heal, to patch them up, you're fucked. So love and revolution need to be coexist and be co-balanced. We don't, and to mistake one for the other, or to try to substitute one for the other, or misdefine one as the other, will warp our perceptions. We be in our house fighting, and we be in the street submitting. If black people are to survive, if the earth is to go on, if biodiversity is to be reestablished, if the life-sustaining capacity of the earth is to be preserved, we need revolution. We need the open conspiracy of revolution. We need to subvert capitalism, U.S. military and Western military, Western hegemony have to be reasserted. The way we structure the economy, the way we value resources, the way we extract resources, the way we refine, process, and distribute resources all have to be fundamentally transformed. How we govern ourselves and how we relate to each other, how we educate ourselves, all have to be reconstructed. And this is not as simple as saying we go do our thing and let them do their things. That's not an option. This system cannot be allowed to function anywhere in the world. You think if we in Africa, being sustainable, being just, being humane, and we leave them fools to do their AI, microcomputer, nanobot, nuclear fucking experimentations, their weaponized viruses, and you think those viruses and that nuclear waste and those nanobots are going to be like, oh, well, this is the African border, and I was made in Europe, so I can't cross the Africa without a passport. Viruses, bombs, waste, global warming does not fuck with borders. So, we need revolution. The goals of revolution must be clearly defined. The strategies and tactics of revolution need to be evolving, intensifying, and love needs to be a constant. Love needs to be a free and abundant constant. They are complements of each other. They coexist with each other. They might even help to sustain one another, but they're not the same thing. And stop thinking you're hurting white people by loving some other black person. I wish it was true. That means we're unity. They don't give a fuck. They saw us in love when they came to us, when they enslaved us. So, black love isn't revolutionary, but black love is an absolute necessity. Black love can inspire you to revolution. But if you love another black person, yeah, I guess you can be proud of yourself. To me, loving black people, loving my black children, my black family, my black wife, that shit was easy. Goddamn. I wish that was revolution, because that shit was easy as hell. I do it without trying. This revolution shit, Way different. Did I touch on everything? Oh, let me tell you about, and then I'll let y'all go. I'm gonna tell you because I wanted to talk about. Also, let me get through this. Y'all want to keep going, or y'all want to fall back and we approach this next year? Because I got some more shit to say. I ain't even looked at my notes. I'm a terrible person. One thing we're confused about love. There's two types of love. Black love is different than romantic love. Most of us, because, and I don't blame us, because I am westernized. I was indoctrinated into Western culture. I was raised a patriotic American. I was raised a Baptist. I was educated at a Catholic school. I know the indoctrination runs deep, and extracting your indoctrination is as hard as extracting a tumor. It could kill you. The healing process could kill you. Literally going through everything you assumed, everything, the people who loved you, the people who took care of me, the people who made it possible for me to exist, and the people who made it possible for me to grow and thrive as a human being. I had to take all these things they told me, they shared with me, they imparted to me, and open it up, cut it open, and dissect it. I don't know. I think yours truly is trolling. Scumbag. I don't know what that has to do with anything. But anyway. All right, keep going. All right, for the two of y'all still left. Shout out to everybody sticking with. So there's different types of loves across across cultures. But we're dealing with these two cultures in conflict. The Western culture, Western love, and African love, or what is called the romantic love, and what I've started to call comedic love. And what is Western love? Because, like I said, we left the plantation and started mimicking white people, which was a fatal mistake. But if we look at this book here, Iceman's Inheritance, Prehistoric Sources of Western Man's Aggression, Racism, Sexism, and Aggression. He talks about what love is, right? And I did a whole book review on this. It's one of my most watched videos on YouTube. So just check that out if you want more details. But just some points I want to make about what was Black love, because most cultures, because I know I have to use the language we all comprehend. Most cultures had no concept of love as understood and experienced by the Romans. And the reason why they call it romantic, goddamn, I don't know what's wrong with me. Forgive me. I keep quoting Scheherazade Ali, but I can't. I read all her shit. Scheherazade Ali said, "You can't be romantic because you're not a Roman." She was spitting. I would like to share, you can't be Islamic either because you're not Arabic. But she can be Muslim. You can be a Black Muslim, but you can't be a Black Roman. Go figure. But anyway, she said what was said is, let me tell you what romantic love is. In Western love or white folks love. Michael Bradley said, a pair bond or quote unquote love is displaced aggression. It is aggression shoved aside, literally, so that the partners can reproduce without threat. Courtship is the subtle process whereby initial and natural aggression is turned aside, so that in the end, the courting partners stand side by side to face the world with their combined and allied aggression directed outward. Courtship can be lengthy and anxiety-provoking process in the West. Quote unquote, falling in love is a more or less traumatic event filled with uncertainties, lovers' quarrels, and play fighting. Right? He also said, where does it start? It may come as something of a shock, therefore, to discover that most of mankind is innocent of anything like the Western notion of love. Whatever it is, we mean, whatever it is, where is it? This book is fading. Oh. whatever it is that we mean by love is simply irrelevant to most of mankind. He said they don't have a word. So this shit we're trying to get into, me and you one-on-one against the world, me and my boo, me and my baby, Bonnie and Clyde. That's not how black people, prior to European corruption, colonization, enslavement, indoctrination, how we dealt with love. Bradley states the Chinese do not even have a word corresponding to love. And the ancient Egyptians' two favorite words and concepts were Ankh and Djid. There is a good deal of uncertainty about whether the ancient Egyptians even possessed something similar to our idea of love. So love and bonds were defined differently. One more thing. He said, love is that middle ground between aggression and the ability to reproduce. So white people created love so that they could have a emotional headspace to reproduce and set aside aggression. But even they couldn't do that fully. That's why fucking both means to harm somebody and to have intercourse. You know, if I say, man, I fucked them, that could mean I did something really bad or I did something really good, you know. So anyway, as we understand what love is, we found that, or he states that, and there are some other correspondence, but let's just run with this, that the three most important things that the highest obtain, because white people, you notice how they always put love and death. What mostly proves love in Western sense is death. Or do you die or suffer? The most romantic story in all of Western culture is what? Romeo and Juliet. White women and white men, they swoon for Romeo and Juliet. What's the greatest love story of the modern era? Somebody in the comments. In the modern era, what is the greatest love story in the last 30, 40 years? Name it. Somebody name it. What's one of the greatest love stories in Western culture in the United States? Last, let's say 30, 20 years. What's the greatest love story? 30, 40 years, 50 years. Because Romeo and Juliet goes all the way back. Don't nobody want to say it? Because when Momo, Titanic. Y'all know it. Titanic, yes. Bonnie and Clyde's a close second. But Titanic, it's the greatest love story. White folks, grizzly white men in the theater, crying. Every time a white man get on the boat, he got to run to the front. King of the world. That's a modern day. And what is it? Death. Every single major love story involves violence, great risk, hardship, and death. If you didn't suffer for it, what's the worth? I never saw Gone with the Wind. I couldn't watch that racist shit. But Titanic is the modern version of Romeo and Juliet. Somebody got to die. Remember that song, Biggie Small? Somebody got to die. If I go, you got to go. Bonnie and Clyde, natural born killers. Joker and Harley Quinn. That's white love. That's their shit that we're trying to be like, and then we got black men. We got black men who are like using white people's marriage statistics to shame the black community. They are not our teachers. They are not our role models. So let's talk about The Bodyguard. I didn't see The Bodyguard, but I'm talking about white on white. Bodyguard had a female protagonist, a black woman, Whitney Hutton. Stop it. Anyway, so these are the three values of our ancestors. And white people like love is the highest goal. African, our ancestors said life, procreation, stability, and purpose. Life, stability, and purpose. You orient your relationship. Do I love him or not? No. When we come together, our goal, life, stability, and purpose. life, so you reproduce yourself, stability, so that you have the atmosphere or milieu or the environment for which you to function properly, and purpose. What is it that you want to do? You want to cultivate yourself, you want to work towards, on and on and on. Yeah, even yours truly mentioned Birth of a Nation. White men expressed their love of white women by mutilating and murdering black white women. And the majority of those mutilations and murders were stated, oh, here it is, were stated to protect the virtue. The virtue. I really like The Wire. Go look at The Wire, and you'll see one episode. I always say white people tell on themselves. There's one episode in The Wire where they had just gotten massive convictions. They took down Barksdale's gang. And the prosecutor and the lead detective went home and had the most passionate sex of their lives. The fact that they knew that these black men would all be in behind closed doors and locked in cells. And I'm like, wow. Because I've been watching The Wire, enjoying The Wire. I really like The Wire. And shout out, rest in peace to Omar. And one of the most intense love scenes in that movie is after how they got sexual gratification from killing and bringing down these black people, these black men. I mean, how many times? There was even some killing back in the day where they had killed these black boys and literally had sex on their corpses. And this is the love we're trying to mimic, and wondering why we got so much strife in our communities. So in African, what I call, if you want to be a theme for your love, because the reason they talk about romance and romantic, white people call things romance because according to their own mythology, Greece and Rome were the seed of their civilization. Some of the highest point where modern art, modern architecture, modern philosophy, modern political structures, their home, their cultural ideological home is Greece and Rome. And I know y'all gonna jump up and say, well, Greece and Rome imitated Africa. They don't care about this shit, and nor should we. Dr. Amos Wilson told us about historical contributionism, trying to rest on our contributions of the past to speak to our condition of today. They don't give a fuck. So they call something romantic is complimentary in common language. So if you're being romantic, you're literally embodying the highest manifestations of your culture. So I say you can call it whatever you want, but I started calling it comedic love, right? So where they are talking about, us against the world, our love, our values, our principles, and you can redefine it as you see fit in terms of the aspirations. It is so weird the way that camera's jumping. Is life, stability, and purpose. So I would say or I call it anarchal, or you can call it comedic love, or comedic relationships, or African-centered, or Africana, or Nubian, or whatever, Yoruba, Akan, whatever you want to call it, as we can't go back to Africa, but we can reconstruct Africa. Sankofa, we can look back to move forward. We can take the wisdom of our ancestors and our goals and ambitions of today and marry that into constructing our culture and evolving our culture and radicalizing and revolutionizing our culture. So these are some things I recommend for Black people to have appropriate relationships, healthy, truly loving relationships. First of all, you have to define your purpose. What is your purpose coming together? I speak for my wife and I. Our purpose is to the total and permanent liberation of African people. That's our ultimate purpose. And we have several short-term goals. We've sat down and reassessed and renegotiated and reapproached this thing. But our purpose is Black liberation. That's why we're together, if for no other reason. And I think a great threat to our relationship. If she ever abandoned the cause, or if I ever abandoned the cause, that could possibly cause an unrepairable rift in our relationship. My wife is very sincere about radicalizing Black people for the purpose of Pan-African liberation. And so am I. So define your purpose between you and your significant other. Number two, define the methods you will employ. Because it's not enough just to think alike or have the same goals, baby. You know what? And you know, if you are a scumbag, if you are an Uncle Tom sellout, you and your wife might have hashtag goals, the Obamas. Y'all want to be Obamas, or y'all want to be Jay-Z and Beyonce? You want to be Oprah and Stedman. If you are that backwards and dysfunctional, you have to say, what are the methods? What methods will we employ? So my wife and I say, you know, we value academics, we value research and study, we value communalism, socialism. We will try to have a rational, secular, even though I'm atheist, my wife is agnostic, which is a cowardly atheist, as I call them. You know, even though we don't see eye to eye on everything, whether it is our long-term goals or our short-term goals, we have certain methods. There's certain things we will do, certain things we won't do. There's certain tactics and strategies within the Black liberation struggle that I just don't fuck with, and my wife. So let's say tomorrow I wanted to go out and join the Not Fucking Around Coalition. And I'm like, baby, this revolution thing ain't happening fast enough. I'm about to go get my little pistol and put on some fatigues and hit the street with these motherfuckers. She would say, that's not consistent with our methodology. You know, or if I say I want to Dr. Umar my shit, it's inconsistent with our ideology, right? Just block this spam. Be with you in a moment. Block user. And so define purpose and define methodology. And listen, it ain't got to be sit down like y'all at a boardroom. You know, you sit across from your sexy woman and you're going to be, you know, have one of those little visors, like those accountant visors. And no, this is something that can happen organically. You know, over long nights of discussions, over red wine and candles. It's not anything that we like formally did, you know. But if some of y'all hardcore enough, second, you have to define your values. You have to define your values. Because you could have good purpose, good methods, but if your values and principles are fucked up. See, you can negotiate tactics and strategies, not value. And we talked so much about values, and we pretty much found that even the white scientists, the white researchers found that Black people's values are pretty where they need to be in terms of our interpersonal and intimate relationships, our goals or desires for self. Second of all, you have to pool resources. I've been seeing a lot of shit online about, oh, he got his account, I got mine, what you bring to the table. If you can't pool your resources as a couple or as a family or as an intimate group, and I don't mean just pooling your resources between you and your spouse. I mean your children and anybody that has common purpose, methods, and values. You have to be all in. You have to go all in. Because if not, if you're in a relationship where, you know, you got yours and she got hers. Remember that song? I love her because she's got her own. She don't want mine. She said, leave mine alone. Her swag matches my swag. That's degenerate. That's one of the most degenerate. Y'all, people out here mad at WAP. I had no problem with WAP. But that got her own, Jamie Foxx, man, go listen to that song. That's the wackest shit. Don't fuck with nobody that come at you like that. Right? So pool resources, as I said, I'm just have to run through the list. I ain't gonna be able to break down. So that means you got to go all in. And when I say pool resources, it ain't just your little funky money. It ain't your little bank account. I mean, intellectually, materially, emotionally, go all in with both feet. Don't be scared. Don't be no punk ass. Communal relationships mean that you have to have healthy boundaries, distance, and closeness. You have to understand as what your boundaries are, what your limitations are, closeness. So you want to be communal, you want to pool resources, but of course you can't be too open because people will play you. So there is that functionality. You have to, as you expand out, you also have to maintain healthy boundaries. You have to maintain appropriate distance from those things that are not conducive and healthy. And you need to control the closeness as other come into that, especially as someone had mentioned in the comments earlier, menticide. And that's common goals, mutual respect. There has to be a division, shared authority. Shared authority. That basically means, back to the values part, I don't run my household. My wife doesn't run my household. My son doesn't run our household. My oldest son, he's out there somewhere. When he lived here, he didn't run the household. Our household is governed by our purpose, methods, values, principles. Meaning that if I want something and my wife does not want the same thing, and we do have to determine, well, who should get it and who's going to lose, we basically discuss which of these goals are consistent or resonate with our values. Now, most of the time, we have conflicts. Like me, I want to get peanut butter cups. And my wife is like, oh, you eat too much damn candy. So I'm like, yeah, it's not best for me. So I'm gonna eat a little bit more, but it's not because she said so. It's because, she made a rational argument. My wife, I'm a wine drinker now. For in my entire life, I've never drank, beer, nothing. But my wife is like, you getting old, and I want you to be a healthy old man, because I still got some things I need you to do for me. She ain't about to take out trash, and she was like, I need you functional, because we got one son grown and out of the house, and another son that's growing up and be out of the house, and she's going to want me to be doing the chores they do. So she wants to keep me healthy, by and large, for her own selfish reasons. And so she's like, you should drink white wine. I mean, red wine. She's like, oh, the health benefits. I didn't want to drink red wine, and this shit tastes terrible. We get the organic vegan wine, and it tastes like hell. I hate how alcohol tastes. But she's went and got me some research, peer-reviewed articles to talk about a man of a certain age, a man of my elderly status, my broken old man status, should drink wine. So now I've taken to drink 2 glasses of wine a week. Just half full. Like, we got those wine glasses, half full. So I drink 2 a week. That's it. And she wants me to also start to use cannabis. She was like, you should, for brain function, and you should use cannabis. And she knows, when she met me, I didn't drink, I didn't smoke weed, I don't do nothing, because I came up during the drug war. Like, my projects was a battlefield for the drug war. So that really turned me off to any type of mind-altering substances. All my homies know, if they really want to kick it, they really want to go out, they'd be like, leave Diallo home. But when I got to college, I was really popular, because I was like, for the whole goddamn downstate SUNY campus, I was the university's official designated driver. So I went to so many parties and concerts, hanging out with the basketball team, because they was like, yo, Diallo gonna be as sober when we leave the club as we went into the club. And I thought I had friends, but I was the one driving everybody home. But I didn't mind getting some brothers and sisters home safely after a night of irresponsible behavior. All good. Shout out to Rich. Anyway, so I told her I ain't ready to do wine and weed, and so we gonna hold off on the weed. But anyway, the way we do this is, she made an argument. She presented data and research, and she made a rational argument. I gave my counter argument. So it goes back and forth. That's how that functions. So the authority in our house is evidence, facts, the best interest of our families. How does this resonate with our common goals? Right? Because my wife wants to take my Xbox and throw it out the window. But I was maybe make an argument, say, hey, Xbox not so bad. I'll just play it these times and limit it to these times. And you leave me alone in these pockets. And so everything is an ebb and flow. There's no hammer being brought down by her or me. Our home is not patriarchal or matriarchal. It is a rational home. And we both, because I trust her that anything she advocates for, and there's a lot of little shit, like she wants to get a piece of jewelry, or I want to download a video game on an old ass computer that I need, and I download the video game and the computer crashes and I can't get it back. So, sometimes the system breaks down. but we both are good faith actors in what's best. So mutual respect, shared authority, division of labor, and division of power. Some things I just leave to my wife, and some things she leaves to me. And our kids come to us and they try to be slick. And they know shit is my certain responsibility in the areas where I carry authority and where I'm left alone to do things my way. They'll go ask my wife. They'll go ask my wife. So, it's just, my wife, what is it like? Oh, medical shit. Like, I have ultimate say over medical shit. I have some medical training in my background. I understand medical terminology. I worked in the healthcare field as an allied health professional for over a decade. And so when it's medical time, like when my son fractured his knee and they were giving us our options, my wife is like, you go talk to him. You go talk to him about that, because I can't deal with my babies bleeding. I can't deal with people cutting my babies open and stitching them back up. So even in the division of power, or some things you can leave to the other spouse, especially with y'all black folks is mad educated, so if you're married to like my wife is a psychologist, a community psychologist, and so she has a large skill set, and certain things I'm like, hey, that's all you tell me what we gonna do. And there's certain things she'd be like, Diallo, what we gonna do? So there's certain things she can just surrender to me, and certain things I can surrender to her, but that's not permanent or absolute. That's not permanent or absolute. She can, and I hold in her arena. If I'm like, yo, I don't think you handling that right. Let's open this back up. I want to say in this, and vice versa. So, division of labor, division of authority, adaptability. I already talked about adaptability. You got to have outlets too. Going back to Xbox, you can be ascetic, one of those monastic families. And if your spouse wants to go out and get a pretty trinket, or wants to play video games, or wants to, motorcycle, or whatever they're into, you got to allow for outlets, my wife, we come together. Sometimes we break up, sometimes we all travel together. Sometimes we travel into, so you got to allow for outlets and not just apart from each other, but also expressing from within, because you're two different autonomous people. And when your children come, this all applies to the children too, most of it. When I get to the intimate, nasty stuff, of course not, but most of this stuff applies to children. And most people, you have ongoing intimate, or ongoing, not intimate in terms of sex, but intimate in terms of all up in your business, all up in your space. So outlets, you got to do ongoing reflection. My wife and I have been together for 22 years. We got together in the year 2000. That's why, around 1999, I'm like, I got to find a woman, because if I can get a woman by 2020, then now everything is numbered, I go from 0 to 100 real clear. So yeah, my wife and I, we started dating in 2020, and we had our first child in 2022. So the numbers was working for me. So I've been with my wife almost 23 years, actually 22. We became official. We locked it down in November. And guess what? Both of our birthdays are in November. It was all a conspiracy. She don't even know. Let me stop playing. Some of y'all be going to my wife and snitching, because she don't watch the show. She don't pay nothing. Anyway, outlets, you got to have ongoing reflection. Just like when these dudes watch sports and then they'll talk about a game. Oh, the 76 Pacers. The 96 Chicago Bulls. You got to kind of do that. You got to reassess, armchair, or they call it Monday morning quarterbacking. When you have some distance, if you had an issue, whether it's good or bad, because we talk a lot about our businesses. We've been restaurateurs, we've been media moguls, not really, but we media distributors, and we talk about, man, we really messed up. Remember we did that? That was stupid. Oh, that was right. So you should always reminisce and be talking about old times. You see these old people who always talk about the past, not be stuck in the past, but there is wisdom to be mined from the past, right? A lot of wisdom. So reflection, outlets and expressions create opportunities, appreciate and share. And I know that goes for, like, I have homies where the husband and the wife are artists. My wife and I both have like theatrical backgrounds. I was theater, she was into theater and forensic arts and all that shit. So we're both creative people. So she's and we actually met at a poetry reading, as corny as that is. So not just allowing space for expression, but appreciating and consuming expression, getting off, fulfilling sex. I put that at the bottom. Fulfilling sex is very important. And go to the sex gurus. There's a sister, Lady Shepsa. She's on social media, but there's a website called Let Go, Let Goddess, and she talks about the stuff I'm too righteous and proper to talk about. But you got to work on having very fulfilling and getting off. Make sure you get off as often as you desire and need to. Get off yourself and get your partner off. Very important. Don't neglect sex. And I want to put this at the very end. Divorce is good and should be utilized as needed. I had a guy named Michael Printer. He was from California, and I was in high school, and he was one of the coolest guys I knew. And I worked for him. And he worked at this sports store where you can go get athletic shoes and athletic gear. And he said, turn to me one day, because he had inherited a house. His aunt had a house that had caught fire, had burned down to the rafters almost. And we came into the store to buy sneakers and sweatbands, just shit. And he was like, yo, y'all looking to make a little extra money? And I'm like, yeah. And he was like, well, I got this free house, and it basically burnt down, and I need to do some break down the house, tear down the damaged parts, and rebuild this house, put a new roof on. And he said, I'll pay y'all. So anyway, that's how I came to know this dude. I thought he was a friend of mine. He was an employer in his mind, and to me, we was homies. But I was probably like 17 and he was like 22, which made him a wise old man. But he had moved to Kansas City from California. And this is in the early 90s, 91, 92, where California was really blowing up, like NWA and all that shit, the Vallejo E40. So anyway, he had said something to me one time when he was working on the house, and he was trying to get permissions from the city, and he had a pallet of some pallet of, I think, drywall or something that the people dropped off at a different date than he thought, and it got rained on and water damaged. And he was like, man, a lot of shit was going on. He turned to me and was like, yo, D, let me tell you something. I ain't no diehard, one of these stupid ass diehard motherfuckers. I'm not a diehard motherfucker. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, you got these people, like they gas black people up. You got to be twice as good to get half as far. He's like, I'm a guy who will fucking drop some shit. He's like, I will give it my all as it's progressing, and I can see it being a positive contribution and being a positive impact on my goals, ambition, and my sense of self. But the moment it stops being that, he's like, not necessarily something being hard, but something just being non-productive. He's like, I will drop that shit. And so I say to my wife to this day, I ain't one of these stupid ass diehard motherfuckers. He hated them. Dude, keep going, And I'm like, yeah. So divorce is not something to be ashamed. I mean, the repressive society suppress, and the Catholic Church forbids divorce. So if the Catholic Church is against it, and if y'all hadn't gone as far as y'all could go together, and y'all neither one of y'all are growing and being sustained, then shamelessly cut it off. Renegotiate. And if that renegotiation means you get a house over there, I get a house over there, and I see you on graduations and holidays, do that, because it's better than living I might be talking myself into a corner, but honestly, that's the last one. So if you want an anarcho functional relationship, find your purpose. Hopefully your purpose is Black liberation, utilizing revolutionary, secular, socialistic Pan-Africanism. Divine your methods. How will we go about achieving our common purpose, and how can I be your support in your individual goals and you be my support? values like veganism. That's something I just couldn't live in a house. I couldn't cohabitate with somebody getting up eating animal carcasses across from me. You know. So fortunately, when I met my wife, she was a vegetarian already. Had been a vegetarian for many years, and she was a vegan for a short period of time. But then her doctor said it was unhealthy, so she went back to being a vegetarian. But then she was like, what the hell did he? So anyway, long story short, she veganism is one of our few secularism. Pull your resources, be communal with your resources. Establish and define common goals, have mutual respect. And respect doesn't mean looking up to somebody. Respect is really seeing someone. That's all it is, really seeing someone for who and what they are. Truly seeing them. Shared authority, division of power and labor, adaptability, outlets, appreciating and allowing for outlets, allowing for having ongoing reflection, looking back and assessments, having outlets and expression, appreciating each other's expression, and even coming together for mutual expression. Getting off, having the most fulfilling sex you can possibly have between you and your partner or partners, depending on how you work it out, and being willing to let that shit go when it's time. Being willing to let go. Don't look at if you get a divorce or breakup, that's not a loss. That's just a different type of victory. Getting out from somebody, getting out from us. If I was some diehard dude, I wouldn't have been left old relationships and had the opportunity to meet my wife. So being willing to let go when holding on is more is not no longer doing the do. So I'm gonna leave it there, and it's too late for Q&A. Maybe I'll do a Q&A soon, but I'll be on the Mix Show. We'll be talking about Blacker Fates in the movie Emancipation with Will the Slapper Smith, and I really appreciate everybody. Let me put this thing across the bottom. Let me put this thing on the thing. You can support the ongoing BroDiallo broadcast, especially going into the new year, the 2023 season. I would like to be more consistent in my output, but that only is really resting people being more consistent in their support. If you are anywhere in the continental U.S., but mainly in the Midwest, if you're in Chicago tonight, it's going to be dangerously cold. Have pets and they're outside. I don't know why they would be outside, but if you have outdoor pets, bring them in. If you go out, make sure under these type of weather conditions, in under 10 minutes, your skin could be harmed or damaged to the point of having lesions or frostbite. So be careful, be mindful, stay off the roads. Hopefully you have everything you need, because there's a severe winter storm. Continue to wear your mask, and I'll see y'all on the BroDiallo official BroDiallo podcast in the new year. And I might do something for Kwanzaa if Karinga Claus puts it on my heart to do something, but I gotta go. So I appreciate everybody, and I'll see y'all Friday morning on the Black Power Media Mix What I Like show. Shout out to Geechee. Shout out to Dr. Ball. He don't like when I call him Dr. Ball. You shouldn't have gone through all that shit to get a PhD. Then turn around and tell people they can't call you doctor. So shout out to Dr. Ball. Shout out to Geechee. I'll see y'all on Black Power Media Mix Show. For me, it's an hour early, which I don't think is fair. But 7 a.m. Central Standard Time on Black Power Media. Peace.